Join us for the Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th Silver Anniversary celebration with your host, Joe Montaigne. Let's take a look back at 25 years of the Valley's top attraction. Plus, meet the vets that bravely answered that call to defend our freedom and rights. Follow some of the greatest legendary leaders of aviation and get an exclusive peek at our newest stealth bomber edition, the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk. Plus, don't miss an all-star 25th tribute to the Air Museum. It's the Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th Silver Anniversary celebration.
Hi, I'm Joe Montaigne, and welcome to the patriotic center of the Coachella Valley, the Palm Springs Air Museum. It was just 3 short years ago that I first visited the Air Museum, and I immediately fell in love with it. What started out on November 11th, 1996 as 2 hangars and 14 vintage warbirds, there are now over 70 vintage static and flying aircraft on property. A B-17 hangar, the General Ken Miles Korea and Vietnam hangar, as well as the Berger Foundation Science Center and classrooms, where STEM classes are taught to students. It's no wonder CNN Travel has rated the Palm Springs Air Museum among the top aviation museums in the world several years in a row. The museum is a testament to the ingenuity of American know-how and innovation. Its mission to preserve American history and these warbirds, to honor our veterans, and to educate future generations is of paramount importance now. 5 of my uncles survived World War II, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think of them and thank them for their service. The continuity of the Palm Springs Air Museum is vital. For those who forget history are doomed to repeat it.
There wouldn't be a Palm Springs Air Museum if it weren't for the pioneering vision of one man, our founder, Robert J. Pond, or Bob to his many friends. Bob was trained as a naval aviator and had a collection of warbirds. It was thanks to his support and his contacts in aviation that the museum was born.
And there was a small group of guys hoping to build a small Palm Springs Air Museum. When Bob showed up, all of a sudden it happened. Because with Bob needing a place to put his airplanes here, it was just a natural fit.
He just wanted people to be able to come into the plane. He didn't want to prevent them from touching the planes or things or anything like that. He wanted them to be able to touch the planes, to go inside the planes. He wanted the people to experience the planes.
Phil Hickson was a co-founder with Bob Pond, and Hickson was a unique human being. Went to the Korean War, did very well in business. The fact that this museum operates on a business-like fashion is largely due to Hickson and his insistence upon fiscal responsibility. And he and Pond were quite the team. Pond was a little bit flamboyant, and Phil was a little bit more businesslike, and look what they created.
It's a great treasure trove. It's a treasure trove of history. It's a treasure trove of helping us all understand what went on in the past, so maybe we can make better decisions going into the future.
The personal touch here at the museum is really what it's about. As you go around and you look at the little things and the little touches and the detail, you realize that this really speaks to where we were and where we're going as America.
This is a Grumman Hellcat F6F-5. It's a very easy airplane to fly for pilots. They really enjoyed it. And this airplane here, in the 2-year period, shot down more than 5,000 enemy airplanes. But they had created about 305 aces, Hellcat aces. And the biggest ace was the David McCampbell, who had shot down 34 airplanes at the time. Highest scoring Navy ace. Right? This is the F-8F Bearcat. It was Navy's airplane to replace the Hellcat. And so they were hoping didn't see combat, but it was on a aircraft carrier. Air Group was going to the Pacific when the war ended. This SBD Dauntless dive bomber. Call it the hero of Midway because this type of airplane sank 4 Japanese carriers in one day. 3 of them in 6 minutes, and the last one they had to chase and sink that one there too. Yeah, so.
From silent wing glider pilots like Norman Sirota, of which this particular exhibit is named, to Tuskegee Airmen like Ted Lumpkin and Bob Friend, who is the guy who gave me this jacket. These are the great men and women who stood on the doorsteps of history. The museum has the great opportunity to help others understand in the first person what happened in these events, put them in historical context, and then celebrate these masters of the air.
I think glider pilots were unique in character. Their only mission was just to serve their country. They flew these planes without engines. There were no second chances. Once they went up, that was it. They were on their mission, and it was just to serve their country.
The country was very patriotic, and being a glider pilot or a paratrooper, same thing, same motivation, and also very high mortality rate. Very patriotic thing to do. Norman was a very patriotic American.
I like that business of courage of your heart, because that means everybody is starting from the same place. The Tuskegee Airmen experience illustrates that. It demonstrates that and illustrates that in a very positive way.
When the war started, if anybody had asked me, why are you fighting this war? I said, because I'm as much a part of this country as you. Some people just don't know how to accept changes. And this did represent changes for a lot of people.
I guess that proved itself that we were on par with the rest of the Air Force. I think we did succeed, and I think we did prove ourselves.
We were quite often asked why we did it. And the answer pretty much is the same for all of us. We did it because this is our country. You know, we may have been treated as second-class citizens, but this was our country.
The last Japanese plane that was up in the air, we had shot down, and he landed right in front of, about 15 yards in front of our ship. The plane that ricocheted and hit towards us, just hit the ship right underneath where I was operating. Like I said, I'm no hero. I did what I was supposed to do, and all of us did what we were supposed to do.
What's the difference between a good fighter pilot and a great fighter pilot? Good eyes, good senses, good training, knowledge of the enemy. In World War II, lots of gunnery training. But I think the difference is something internal. The Germans called it a fighting spirit. I think I'd just call it motivation.
Thank you for watching the Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th anniversary celebration. It's by your generous donations that we've remained open and thriving all these years. Now more than ever, we can use your support. Our future completely relies on you, our valued donors. Your donations fund everything from our operations and overhead to our educational programs and more. Please honor us with your generosity, and here's how you can make a real difference.
Call now to 760-660-4125. Operators are standing by. That's 760-660-4125. Or log on to our website, psairmuseum.org/donate, and make your donation today.
I had an experience back when I was really young in 1976. I was an ordained minister with the Universal Life Church. So I'm nervous and I'm looking at this and I said, what are we doing here? And they said, well, we're actually going to get on an airplane and we're going to go up and circle around and then you're going to marry them in the sky. And I went, okay. By the authority vested in me by the Universal Life Church of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. It was great fun, great experience, and I hope to see you again. Congratulations on 25 years. May you have 100 more years to go.
I remember some of my first airplane flights when we used to dress for them. It was an event, and how exciting it was to get on an airplane to be going somewhere. But it wasn't just the destination, it was the travel. It was going to the airport, it was getting on the airplane. It was being treated a certain way or feeling special because you were riding on that airplane. I just want to say congratulations to the Palm Springs Air Museum for 25 years. Happy 25-year anniversary.
Hey everybody, Ray Romano here. First off, I want to say congratulations to the Palm Springs Air Museum on 25 years. Very nice accomplishment. Second off, I want to say I apologize for how I look. This is what a pandemic does. I'm sorry. I put a hat on because I thought it'd be dressy. Anyway, congratulations once again, and God bless everybody.
Coming up, meet aviators from Vietnam, astronauts and innovators. Take a ride in a C-47. Go behind the scenes of our F-117 stealth bomber restoration and Superman Dean Cain. Stay tuned.
I'm here in the Major General Kenneth P. Miles hangar, honoring the courage of our Korean and Vietnam heroes and the planes they flew. Under Miles' command, his unit became the first combat-ready F-111 wing in the U.S. Air Force. The Miles hangar features one of the largest collections of aircraft from Vietnam, Korean, and Cold Wars, including a presidential aviation exhibit. This Convair 102 Delta Dagger was flown by pilot and future President George W. Bush.
What it brings to the community is amazing. If they didn't have this, they wouldn't have so much history from the past that we sadly are beginning to lose now. People are yearning for this. They want to learn, and all the children coming here and so forth. It's amazing. It is one of the brightest spots in all of this valley.
Aviation has been part of my life ever since I got started. Got my private license when I was in high school. In college, I went into the ROTC, and when I graduated, I served 4 years of active duty in the Air Force. Got to fly some of the jet fighters of that time, and they are now both here at the museum. I graduated from flight school in 1956, and they were flying F-84Fs, and I got to fly this plane for a year and a half. And people don't realize that the Strategic Air Command, which was the bomber command, had 7 fighter wings that were originally to be escort wings. But when the F-84F came along, they changed the mission, and this became the first fighter aircraft that could drop atomic weapons on targets, and our targets were always in Russia. It was called a lead sled. It was underpowered, but once we got off the ground, it was a beautiful flying airplane. This happens to be the F-100D, which is actually the final model that they designed. They flew 360,000 combat missions, air-to-ground missions in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. It was there at the very beginning of the war, and they did the very last air-to-ground flights at the end of the war in '72.
Growing up as a young boy, I knew my father worked at, of course, Lockheed and the Skunk Works, and I knew that he was doing some really super secret flights with very fast airplanes, but certainly had no idea that he was flying what was then and still is today the world's highest and fastest airplane, the SR-71 Blackbird. And in fact, it's interesting because Hollywood loves the Blackbird. If you notice all of the superheroes, X-Men, Deadpool, all these other recent Hollywood sci-fi movies, they always have them flying the SR-71 Blackbird. This is the Lockheed F-104 Starfighter. This was the first production fighter that achieved Mach 2. It was designed by Kelly Johnson of the famed Skunk Works, the same designer who also created and designed the SR-71 Blackbird, which is the highest and fastest airplane in the world. So he designed both the Mach 2 and Mach 3 airplane. And this airplane is the fastest. A lot of people don't realize this aircraft is the fastest aircraft here in the Palm Springs Air Museum. At one time it held, when it was early in its production, 3 world records: speed, rate of climb, and altitude. And for this airplane, as you can see, it's aerodynamic. It's very thin. It's got short, stubby wings, only 7 feet from wing root to wing tip. And so that makes this airplane extremely fast. And so as a result, a lot of people referred to it as the man in the missile. And some of the German pilots who later flew the airplane that was licensed to them from Lockheed called it the Widowmaker, because the airplane was very unforgiving.
For me personally, 3 of the airplanes that I flew during my career are here. The T-33, the F-100, which I got checked out right after pilot training, and then we graduated into the F-105, which is bigger and delivered more weapons and was faster. This is the F-105D. It's made by Republic Aviation. It's a very fast airplane that I flew in Vietnam. For a long time, it was the largest single-seat, single-engine airplane in the world. I was on a mission in 1965, July 27th, 1965, and there was 4 of us attacking a missile base. And it was the very first time in history that anybody was attacking a surface-to-air missile base. And it was a flak trap. They knew we were coming, and they had a bunch of guns there instead of the missiles, and we flew right into it. And coming off of it, I looked in the cockpit and I had a fire light on. The airplane was burning. My flight mates were telling me, "Frank, get out, it's on fire." One of them said, "You got 150 feet of flame behind you." But the airplane was flying. It was still responding. I lost all my instruments. I had to clean the airplane, blow everything off the airplane, and it was moving. It was still going. We were doing somewhere around 500 knots as we egressed from the Hanoi area straight west. And then all of a sudden, after about 7 or 8 minutes, it stopped responding to the controls, and I had to get out. And I didn't realize the noise level that I'd be living in the minute I blew that canopy, because the first motion is you lift the handles, the rejection handles, and the canopy blows. And for about 3 or 4 seconds, I was stunned at the racket and the loud, because the engine is right there. Finally, I went ahead and squeezed the triggers and ejected. I don't remember anything. I blacked out. The next thing I know, I was in my parachute. I didn't see the flight that I was in. I didn't see what happened to my airplane. So I must have been out for quite a while. I did everything I could to help myself get rescued in those 3 hours.
It's not just a museum. It's a monument to those who go to battle, some of whom don't come home. The greatest generation, but also the Vietnam people. There's one thing I did that I'm proud of, is I opened this museum's arms to the Vietnam veterans. And we have their airplanes, and we have their stories. And they paid a real price, because they came home and got treated very poorly. And so to give them an honor here it was very important to me when I was chairman, and I think took the museum in that direction, and I'm glad we did it. But it's a monument. And every time you fly one of these airplanes, you're paying respect to people who are a lot braver than you and I, and went out and fought the just wars.
There wasn't any question as to what to do. There weren't any real options. The only possible way of getting those 8 out of there was for me to go back in. I had only one on board. I think that's the code of the soldier. We are not going to leave them on the battlefield, regardless of what their condition may be.
I had so few rounds left, the only thing I had left was armor piercing and white phosphorus. All my explosive rounds were gone. That's how many we had fired. I don't know how many we killed that night, but they were attacking and attacking and attacking.
There were a lot of incoming rounds coming in, I mean, all over the place. Weapons firing, rounds coming in, exploding. They wanted to take that camp, I guarantee you.
But it was also pivotal in the sense that I found out what it was like to be in battle, and to have all the support, air support. It was awesome. Is that too much too strong?
We got tired of killing teenagers. And when do you stop and go home?
In 1967, I came back. It was in October of '67. After this operation took place, and I was confronted in the San Francisco terminal by a young gentleman referred to as a hippie or whatever you want to call him at that time. And he tried to spit at me, but he didn't have any ammunition at the time. So I was in full uniform. I reached out and grabbed him by the shirt and the belt or the crotch, turned him upside down and stuffed him inside a trash container and walked into the bar to a great amount of applause and free drinks.
One of the most important aspects of the Air Museum is our education program, led by coordinator Greg Kenny. The museum teaches school-aged children and the general public of all ages throughout Southern California and the world about the past, the present, and the future of the valiant, vital work done every day by men and women in the air and on the ground.
Here at the Palm Springs Air Museum, you get to interact with the aircraft. The artifacts themselves tell a story. How much more living history can it possibly be? How can you say to yourself, what would it have been like more so than that? This Air Museum has the unique opportunity to have students walk in the door and to ignite something inside of them that they may not have known was there before. I think one of the most unique things about the Palm Springs Air Museum and what we do here is the fact that young people get to have conversations with people that have had experiences World War II, Korea, Vietnam. They get to engage with veterans, people that have made a career out of being willing to sacrifice themselves for our country and our freedom.
10 men flew in this aircraft, and they were heroes in their day. This is something that you'll take through the rest of your history. So, come on, follow me. I believe that every child has a chance, and I'd like to see them get ahead, and we want them to stay in school. And we also want to give them the history of what the world was.
Here at the museum, we have this great opportunity to tap into the STEM and STEAM educational experience, the science, technology, engineering, the arts, mathematics, all those things that kids can get excited about, and we can show them that there is an actual way forward for them, for their future.
One of the benefits that we have having our science and technology lab here at the Palm Springs Air Museum is that whenever we are learning about a concept that's a little easier to learn by seeing or touching and doing, we are able to go over to the hangars and take a look at some of the incredible components of these planes and show the students what we're talking about. It is so much easier to show somebody an aileron than to try and explain a tiny little flap that's part of the wing that moves independent that affects whether or not the plane is going to fly.
That dream that I had to become a pilot is now stronger to become a pilot. It's pushed me to become more pilot-y.
I try to encourage them to look at, everything we got here as how does this relate to everyday life and careers out there? Because there's an awful lot of not just military careers, but aerospace careers. And we're gonna need a lot of pilots and a lot of aerospace workers in the future. You work hard, you work really, really hard, and yes, it is possible.
This museum, in my opinion,
is about inspiration and inspiring future generations to not only respect history and what people did for this country, but that'll continue. And that's one of the joys that I have. I'm sorry. That's one of the joys that I have working here. I love working with the kids because if I can inspire them to read more history, to get involved in aviation, I feel like I'm doing a great service. That's what this museum is really all about, in my opinion.
I spent 35 years with the Palm Springs Unified School District, so this youth program is something that's very close to my heart, and it does provide the students with a wonderful opportunity. There's no cost to the school district or the students. We pay for their buses, we pay for their admission, and we pay for their lunches, so all they have to do is find the time in their busy curriculum to show up.
Our country is a place where if you can prove yourself, if you can work hard, and if you can show yourself to be of good character, you can succeed. That's a goal that I think we want to set in students' minds. We want to give them that inspiration that despite where it is that they may have come from, if they work hard, they can achieve whatever it is their heart desires.
I would like to say thank you for all of this, for teaching me all this history, for allowing me to experience it again and again for the rest of my life, because it is really an experience that I will never forget and an experience that I will cherish for my entire life.
This is an actual real-life experience with the real aircraft, with the real people. It's living history.
Thank you for watching Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th Silver Anniversary celebration. Your donations help subsidize the cost for field trips and the Air Museum in creating an opportunity for students in every social, economic background to see and feel what it's like to be around an aircraft and learn about the operations of an airport. Via the museum's aircraft and displays, students on field trips greatly expand on and in many cases have their first encounter with the history of the nation's military conflicts. And all of these experiences do not cost the children or the schools a penny. Please donate right now.
Call now to 760-660-4125. Operators are standing by. That's 760-660-4125. Or log on to our website, psairmuseum.org/donate, and make your donation today.
Whenever I am asked, and I'm asked this question all the time, if you could pick one, which superpower of Superman's would you choose? Well, my answer is always the same. The ability to fly. It puts the whole world within reach.
Dennis Leary here, congratulating the Palm Springs Air Museum on 25 years. They need your help. They need some donations. And if you're interested in the history of aviation, which we all should be because it's part of what made this country great, then you should donate, please, to this great cause and this great museum.
Hey folks, Guy Fieri here. Listen, we're celebrating 25 years. This is huge. You know what this is huge is it's celebrating a museum, which we don't have enough museums anymore. Matter of fact, if you take kids today and you talk to them about a library, you're talking about a museum, they don't really care much about it or really understand the significance. But if you think about the Palm Springs Museum of Aviation and you think about all that's gone on in this 25 years and all that's been celebrated in the world of aviation, this is amazing. Thank you for curating this. Thanks for making this happen. Thanks for making this available to people to realize and recognize where we came from and where we are now. Because if we didn't take this time to do this and have this, there'd be a lot of generations that would forget about it. So congrats on 25 years.
I love it here. I love flying. I love the history, not only of the United States, but of aviation. And I discovered a little while ago that one of my ancestors was very involved in the beginning of aviation. And I want to show you this plane over here. This is a very early model of the Blériot monoplane. This was the plane that was, Louis Blériot flew the English Channel in this. is the first man who flew the English Channel in 1909. So this model is about 110 years old, and it's particularly important to me because of this guy here. So if you can see the same plane here, and it's being flown not by Blériot, but by a fellow who was his mechanic, was one of the early guys to fly heavier than air in France, first guy to fly heavier than air in Spain. His name is Julien Mamet, and he was my second or third cousin.
Hi, everybody. It's Robert Hayes. I just wanted to wish the Palm Springs Air Museum a happy 25th anniversary. I've got a lifelong association with aviation. My dad was a Marine Corps fighter pilot, and then I got my pilot's license and had Claire Walters be my examiner. She's got a long association with Palm Springs, the Powder Puff Derby, and as Ted Stryker, I'm sure I calmed the nerves of passengers the world over and made it much easier and enjoyable for them to fly comfortably, safely, knowing that everything was fine. They didn't have a thing to worry about. Anyway, I wanted to wish the Palm Springs Air Museum a happy 25th. And let's do everything we can to keep it going so they have another 25 years at least.
Coming up, find out how we keep vintage warbirds flying high. Meet the heroes that created the Top Gun program and the current enlisted airmen and women that are breaking down barriers. And Modern Family's Ed O'Neill. Stay tuned.
When they say this is the experience of a lifetime, they aren't kidding. This is a Douglas C-47 Skytrain from World War II, one of several aircraft that the Palm Springs Air Museum meticulously maintains in flying order. This C-47 was acquired by the museum in 2003 and continues to delight museum visitors as a flyable exhibit. What's Up Doc, painted complete with original nose art and invasion stripes, is a flying tribute to the men and machines used to kick off D-Day.
The C-47 is one of 7 current flying vintage planes here at the Palm Springs Air Museum. This past summer, you might have seen some of our aircraft in flyovers dedicated to our frontline workers. You can book flights in a warbird of your own, and perhaps no plane evokes memories of fighter aircraft in World War II like the P-51 behind me, serving as a fighter bomber. It was the Tuskegee Airmen of the 332nd Fighter Group that became the new famed Red Tails. Our P-51D Bunny pays homage to those brave men. Bunny is dedicated to Tuskegee Airman Lieutenant Colonel Bob Friend. Bunny was his airplane.
My dad was a genuine American. It's the best way for me to put it. He loved this country. He would do anything for it. He was proud of the things that he accomplished. He was happy about telling people about the stories and telling everybody that it didn't matter if people told you you couldn't do it. He was always that person in the background telling you that you could.
I believe that in and everybody that flew over there in Tuskegee really and truthfully felt equal to the job. And that's a big, big, big part of survival. You gotta go out and prove yourself. Not for race. I go out and I prove myself for me.
Behind the scenes, the Air Museum has a complete restoration program that brings static and flyable planes back to their once glory. Currently under restoration is this PBY Catalina flying boat, which has seen action in the Aleutian Islands during World War II, donated by Howard and Harriet Bernstein.
So Howard was really involved with the Air Museum almost from the beginning, first as a docent and then continuing on to the executive committee. He was a Navy pilot in the Pacific Theater during the war, and he loved the Navy, he really did. He bought 2 aircraft for the museum of the type that he flew during the war, and when he placed the insignia of his squadron. And on the PBY here, he commissioned Stan Stokes to copy a photograph of me and put it on as nose art. The picture was taken in Acapulco, and I had this huge hat and this wonderful bikini. And of course, the bikini went by the way a long time ago, but I somehow couldn't get rid of the hat. So every so often I put it on and I pose with it, and it's kind of fun. So that's Harriet's chariot, my vehicle, which will fly again.
And this is our newest and perhaps greatest addition, the Black Devil F-117A Nighthawk Stealth Fighter, part of the new Jim Houston Pavilion coming in 2022. The F-117 was deployed in Desert Storm, and its technology changed our aviation supremacy forever. The Nighthawk is about a one-year renovation and supported much to the vision and dedication of the late Jim Houston and donors like you.
You get to the point where they take you out to the hangar and open up the hangar door, and you walk in and look at this thing in the hangar. And I recall seeing it for the first time, and it almost takes your breath away, because it doesn't look like that Bearcat or that Corsair or that Hellcat over there or any of the jets. It looks like this movie prop.
Right.
There aren't seams on it, there aren't rivets, you can't see any of that because the RAM, the radar absorbent material coating, which covers the entire airframe, covers all of that stuff. And it's so weird to see something that appears to be a movie prop. And
right.
To make matters worse, it is so angular and unconventional with regard to its shape. So we walked around the airplane. I asked the instructor, I said, how long does it take before you walk out to the jet and just think of it as a jet, not some freaky thing? He said 6 months. And that's about right.
Like Fred said, our F-117 Nighthawk saw action in Desert Storm, as did this next group of air vets, creating the famed Top Gun program, flying missions in Iran and Iraq, and taking us to the moon and back.
It was just like drinking out of a fire hose for a while. And then we started seeing it come together. We at least have a shot at making the changes we all believe. And it's going to be a collective effort. If they accept the changes and is successful, then it's worth doing. What a rare opportunity. It's a little scary till you get going, but these guys, all of them, the original 8, were bigger than life.
In Desert Storm, we were so successful it looked easy, but it really wasn't. Our biggest threat initially was the Iraqi Air Force. They had first-line fighters, and they were very deadly. So what we did is we took the heart out of the Iraqi Air Force fighter force. We cut off their ground control, so they were blundering around in the night, and then we stuffed missiles right down the interceptors as they came airborne.
What I learned in Desert Storm was really kind of surprising to me. You never rise to new levels of performance in combat. You're going to fall to whatever level you've trained to. You can never pull a rabbit out of the hat in tactical aviation unless somehow or other you've carefully put that rabbit in there. And the act of really high quality training and a lot of good disciplined flying is the way to put the rabbit in the hat.
I believe that people that worked in Apollo, they come to work at NASA, they want to be successful, they want the programs to be successful, and they make it that way. Human beings can accomplish so much more than they ever imagined.
I think when women are achievers, they have a responsibility. I certainly love to speak to young women and see a light go on in their eyes, and they think, well, gosh, if she can do that, maybe I can too. And I think that's so important.
I'm probably one of those rare astronauts that didn't grow up and want to be an astronaut all your life. I was an airplane person. Mom and Dad were airplane people. I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer and a test pilot, and wasn't really focused on being an astronaut.
One of the key things that really was exciting was the altitude. That was kind of a tingling sensation the first time you started passing through altitudes that you had never been to before, and neither had anybody else. Just the fact that you're 85,000 feet going 2,000 miles an hour, that's exciting.
People will ask me, how did I prepare myself to be the highest ranking black female in the United States Air Force? And the thing is, you don't really prepare. I've had a wonderful life of service. Once I became an airman, I knew that's what I wanted to do for life, whether it be active duty or in the reserve. And then what I wanted to do every single day is to take care of the airmen around me.
The docents here, I think everybody that I've met so far is so knowledgeable. Most of the people that I work with have experience flying all these airplanes and being actually involved with it. So what a better way to learn about something than talking to the people that have been there.
Well, I've flown 34 different flying machines as a fighter pilot. And this, of course, is my baby right here. This is a modified T-28 that I flew. The temperature inside the cockpit was 150 degrees. And in Vietnam, I want you to know that was really tough. A lot of times we flew in just shorts and a T-shirt. And the average mission was 8 to 11 bullet holes in your aircraft.
The Palm Springs Air Museum serves multiple purposes in the Coachella Valley. Not only is it part of history, it's part of how we've drawn people from all over the country to either enjoy life, work, or retire, and yet the significance of everybody who somehow touches or has affiliation with the Palm Springs Air Museum is commendable.
What I love about the Air Museum is the connections that occur here. Veterans coming back and seeing the equipment that they labored on during their service. People having an opportunity to connect over the generations with our history.
It's fun to go here, and I think it's almost impossible, intellectually impossible to exit the museum and not really learn something. And you sort of revisit what you've seen in the museum, maybe as the days go by. Going to the Air Museum really makes you simply feel good. It makes you think you're smarter. I think it's a very effective way of learning to come to the museum. And especially important, I think, is the Air Museum keeps history alive. It preserves the legacies of hundreds and thousands of veterans that fought our wars, that allowed us to have the freedom that we have now. And I think this Air Museum does that. It preserves their legacy.
To be able to say that we have an air museum in which features vintage aircraft that have been used in order for our communities, for our nation to be free, is amazing to me, and it's historical. And to be able to say as well that our youth and our families have a place in which they can come visit, to be educated, to learn from people that are volunteering, that perhaps fought in the Korean War, that perhaps fought in the Vietnam War, that perhaps fought even in World War II at one point in time, I think it's also amazing. This is one of the best museums, not only here, but in the world. And I really appreciate that it's in our backyard.
When you hear the word museum, I suspect a lot of people think of it as just a place to preserve history. But we all know that museums, especially the Palm Springs Air Museum, are so much more than that. The exhibits there educate, inform, and inspire. But those exhibits just don't happen on their own. It takes a lot of time, effort, and more importantly, money. And without individuals, exhibits at the Palm Springs Air Museum, one that has my flight suit, the Women in Aviation exhibit, those exhibits simply wouldn't exist.
Call now to 760-660-4125. Operators are standing by. That's 760-660-4125. Or log on to our website, psairmuseum.org/donate, and make your donation today.
Hello, my name is Paget Brewster. Joe Mantegna asked me to tell you what my favorite flight was. It was in 1994. I was a 25-year-old talk show host, and we were doing an episode about adrenaline junkies, so we made a deal with a company called Air Combat USA. The idea is you get into these Marchetti little jets, and you dogfight. So you're supposed to take a bunch of tests and get a lot of training, which I don't know if that's necessary. And we take off, and what happens is there's like a laser sight. So Kara's behind me, and she's shooting at me with a thing, and the laser sight hits a laser receptor on the back of my Marchetti, and when you get hit, a smoke pack goes off inside the cockpit, and it's that clear bubble. So it's filling with smoke, and you have to pull it back. I threw up 6 times. Well, probably only threw up twice and then dry heaved 4 times. But it was exhilarating. So we both did the thing where you go all the way around like a loop-de-loop or something, and barrel rolls, I think it's called.
Hey, buddy, just wanted to say hello. Just leaving, I'm in Oregon right now, I think.
So I remember I was terrified and got on the plane with the team and sat a window seat on the left side of the plane. It was a prop jet. And we took off and everything was cool. And it was a beautiful fall day. The only problem, the kid sitting next to me on the aisle was a guy by the name of Gene Farrow. And Gene went about, I don't know, 315 pounds. I was concerned about that weight. And then there was an announcement from one of the pilots, and he said, if you look off to the right side of the plane, we're going to be passing over the Ohio State football stadium, and you're going to get a good look at it. And everybody started running over there from, the left side to the right and looking out the window. And Gene started to get up to go over, and I remember grabbing him around the neck with more strength than I ever possessed and said, Gene, you're not going anywhere. You're going to make the plane flip over.
Coming up, we'll fly high with commanding enlisted men and women of the armed services. Get up close and personal with the man, the legend, Clay Lacy, Aviation Hall of Famer Joe Clark, the pioneer that designed the blended winglet, and Forrest Gump's Gary Sinise. Stay tuned.
Behind every notable achievement is a dreamer of great dreams, the men and women who make the world a better place than when they found it. They may come from different places and have different stories, but they shared common hopes and one very American dream.
The Air Force core values are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. They are fundamental to who we are as a service. I have countless examples how airmen personify integrity first each and every day. Through our integrity and mutual trust, we're able to be successful in combat.
My duty to uphold is the standard at which America has come to expect of its military. We're the greatest military in the world, but you don't get to stay like that without working day in and day out to stay that way. Every single time you get in that aircraft, you need to be striving for perfection.
Read aviation history. Know your roots, know what's in your DNA, know what defined you, so that you understand what the fighter spirit is about and that you never let that die. Stay passionate, stay hungry, stay motivated to teach others, and never let those original ideas that formed the basis of naval aviation ever go away. Because again, no matter how much technology changes, the people will always remain those same, just talented and dedicated individuals who make all this work.
At the end of the day, they say, the perfect flight doesn't exist, and it's very true. You always make small mistakes, and I think being able to move past those so that it doesn't train wreck the rest of the event is what's gotten me here. And then, as my mom always says, don't borrow trouble. So I know that I might have a big event in the future, but I'm just gonna focus on the flight ahead of me, and then that has, I think, helped me kind of stay focused.
I joined an army that didn't care what I looked like. It didn't care what I worshiped. My dog tag did not say, oh, negative Democrat. You know, there's no battalion of airborne Republicans, right? We're one team. You're willing to be there with me. You're my brother. Let's go get them. We just want to do our job. We want to come home. We want to live in peace and security, and the military is ready to defend that and protect that. These are volunteers that are doing it, and we're far superior than anything we're up against, but attention needs to be paid to that.
Military test pilot, air race champion, private plane innovator, aviator Clay Lacy is the world's most experienced operator of private jets. This Learjet on display here at the Palm Springs Air Museum is Clay Lacy's personal jet. It was retired and put on display with over 18,000 hours of flight time and 90% of Hollywood's famed celebrities as past passengers. Now here's Lacy, along with aviation pioneer Joe Clark, the man that developed the famed blended winglets found on most every aircraft today.
Yes, Hal Fishman and I flew this to San Francisco and back. And these are not from off to on times. They were over LAX VR to San Francisco VR and back.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it in a 1 hour and 11 minutes, I think, round trip.
Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is the record still stands.
Yeah, it still stands.
Yeah.
What was interesting about the experience in the Lear, and especially these early Lears, is that when you would go someplace in a Learjet, many times that was the first time they'd ever seen a private jet. And it was really extraordinary because you felt like an astronaut. I remember when we had Sonny and Cher in the airplane at Good Times, and she was about 16 years old. And we got mobbed every time we landed.
When the Lear was new and we got it out, one to California for a demonstrator, why he was certainly on the list to take flying, get a ride to. And so he did, and he ordered, he got number 31, Lear Bill, and started flying to Palm Springs a lot. And I flew with him many times at the beginning. Mia Farrow, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Robert Redford flew a lot. In fact, fairly recently, just before he retired, he chartered a lot. It flew Clearwater Revival, the whole band to Europe, flew across the Atlantic in that airplane. Johnny Carson, I personally took him twice to Nebraska in that airplane, and he flew it. He had a pilot license, and Carol Channing flew in it. Clint Eastwood, Elvis Presley. This is the airplane that took Elvis and Priscilla to file a divorce the next day in Santa Monica. Andy Williams several times. Cliff Robertson, Alfred Hitchcock.
I think Clay's efforts and Alan Paulson's efforts changed aviation, the whole world for aviation, because these airplanes go all over the world. I mean, they go Africa and the Middle East, and they really, really made a significant difference. And what's interesting, today we're going no faster or flying no higher than we were in 1960s.
So what's the 25th anniversary without some special friends to celebrate with? So here are some faces you might know that want to wish the Air Museum congratulations on reaching such a prestigious milestone.
I'm so glad that the Palm Springs Aviation Museum, the Air Museum there, is preserving this history for all of us to enjoy. And I send many congratulations on 25 years to the Palm Springs Air Museum. God bless you. Thank you. And God bless America.
I would like to thank everybody at Palm Springs and congratulate them for preserving a magnificent American and world heritage of aviation. Congratulations on 25 years.
And please support the Air Museum of Palm Springs. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary.
Congratulations to the Palm Springs Air Museum on 25 years. And here's to 25 more.
Hi everybody, Frankie Avalon here. And I understand now you're celebrating your 25th anniversary. May I say to you, enjoy 5 more years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, okay? Thanks so much and God bless.
Congratulations to the Palm Springs Air Museum on 25 wonderful years. And here's a toast to the next 25 years. Cheers.
Congratulations on 25 years, Palm Springs Air Museum. I love Palm Springs. I love flight in general, although I am reverent and it scares me a little bit. However, I think it's an amazing thing to celebrate, and the people and things that make it happen mostly the people that make the things make it happen.
And I would like to congratulate the Palm Springs Air Museum for 25 years. Whew. I talk too much.
I want to wish the best of luck to the Palm Springs Air Museum. And hope you raise a lot of money.
The past year has been challenging for everyone. Lives have been turned upside down. Wearing masks, staying home, and taking as many safety precautions as possible has become the norm. Here at the Palm Springs Air Museum, we are struggling with our new normal as well. Due to extended closures, we are experiencing a sizable drop in our revenue, not only through our downturn in our annual attendance, but also from our greatly reduced event income and facility rental fees. These three areas of revenue provide a significant amount of the income we require to keep our planes flying. This money funds everything from our operations and overhead to our educational programs, which are so vital. And because of this shortfall, we are asking for your help. As we celebrate our very special 25th anniversary this year, we want to make sure that we're around to celebrate our 50th. Honor us with your generosity. Here is a way you can make a real difference.
Call now to 760-660-4125. Operators are standing by. That's 760-660-4125. Or log on to our website, psairmuseum.org/donate, and make your donation today.
I hope you've enjoyed a look back at 25 history-making years and a look forward at our exciting upcoming expansion, including the new Jim Houston Pavilion and the reveal of our F-117 Nighthawk. So, thank you for watching the Palm Springs Air Museum's 25th Silver Anniversary celebration. And please, help us with your generous donation. Good night.
The following has been a Palm Springs Air Museum production in association with Jones Agency.